Know what I'm saying? So yeah, what's up, y'all? Can't Flip for Ship here. And I'm just doing a video today to say something that I noticed the other day that I don't think really anybody talks about. And all it is just that the flipping style that you develop has a lot to do with your ballast song that you first start off with. So like for me, I know that I first started with a pretty decently balanced, slight handle bias ballast song. The One Falcon was like the main like good ballast song that I had. And so for me, I kind of had like a decent balance between all aspects. And I wasn't really scared to do that many of tricks, things along that line. So I like to think that I had a pretty balanced experience, but that's not necessarily the case for everybody because you don't really know what you don't know. And so like I think I've never really seen it mentioned that the ballast song that you primarily use when you're first starting to flip is going to be a big determining factor in what specifically, like what style you develop. Because people talk about style all the time and how to develop your style, but people don't really talk a lot about what factors are the biggest. Well, they do talk about that, but they don't talk about this specific factor, or at least I've never heard of it. And so I figured I would kind of like talk about it. And it's just that I think honestly that the more that you get more and more ballast songs, will kind of help out with this. But when you first start out, you're kind of beholden to whatever ballast song you have. Like for example, let's say you start off with a ballast song that has like a very, very strong handle bias, and now you can't really do that much of fanning tricks. Whoa. If you have a ballast song like that, you can't really necessarily do all those types of fanning tricks and learn them. And then your style, when you go on in the future, all of a sudden you realize, hey, I really only do like a lot of rollovers and stuff. And that's just how it kind of goes, because you don't realize that you're kind of beholden to the ballast song that you first started off with. So that's kind of like a big factor in developing your style. And I think like a lot of people, you can kind of tell like, oh, if they're really heavy on fans, they might have started off with a blade bias knife. If they're really heavy on rollovers, they might have started off with a handle bias knife. And so that's just one little factor that I don't know if anybody ever really thought about. Like people wanted me to do videos on developing style. It's just something that will naturally happen. Like you'll have a propensity to sort of get into certain tricks and avoid other certain tricks just because you're not good at them. You might really enjoy doing aerials, and let's say every time you do an aerial, you just always land it and you're just feeling good and you just transfer over and they're just something that's very crispy clean for you, then that might end up being, your thing. But if you don't always land them, then you might kind of shy away from them. And then you might be one of those people that's like constantly hitting rollovers, constantly doing like just transferring with rollovers, helixes, things along that line, and you never really let the ballast song leave your hand. So that's just kind of how that goes. You know what I'm saying? I don't really know a lot about how styles get developed, but I know that like what will really cement your style is when you get to that point where you just, everything that you do is like you've gotten a lot of tricks down that you do regularly and you flip a lot. So you're not really like focused so much on learning new tricks. You're more so focused on like just cementing the tricks that you already have. And when you do that, you sort of ingrain your style into, your memory, because it's just what you do naturally. Like, especially for people who make videos like me, and people that do these types of videos, ballast song flipping along that line. It's just that, it's almost like you just develop the style and every time you do a video, you just cement it more and more. And it just kind of becomes your thing. For example, I know like the one where I do like this right here, I don't really see anybody else hitting that. So, that kind of solidifies it. And then you get the bias, like that's your style or whatever. Anyways, I'm getting kind of like into something that doesn't really apply to everybody. But yeah, so, the more and more that you're doing these, tricks and not really focus so much on learning, then the more you sort of Man, I'm dropping this a lot. I'm in the cursed area again. Watch. Let me step out here. I bet you don't drop it for the rest of the video. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, you know, to see how everybody else... Maybe it's just me. But yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how everybody develops their style, but it really has to do with like what tricks you have a propensity for. And inherently that means that it's going to involve your ballast song that you started off with. It's going to involve that ballast song being a big including factor. Man, I messed that trick up. So yeah, that's just kind of a little thought bubble, a little thing to talk about. Man, I really want to land this. Let's see. We're going to do the choker fan into this rollover, down, back up, bring it up, around, turn it like that. And there we go. So yeah, let me know what tricks you guys like doing, how you developed your style, some factors that maybe I missed out on. I'm always down to hear what people have to say in the comments. So it's always interesting to me to see what y'all have to say. And I think that's pretty much how I'm going to wrap up the video. Whoa. I thought this would be a good way to wrap up the video. Ta-da! Rock on, y'all.